Sales is not just getting new patients. Sales is also important in the retention side of the business.
Particularly, we're competing for people's money. Are they going to spend it on a vacation? Are they going to spend it on a weekend? Are they going to spend it on their health? Exactly.
For someone who has a men's health clinic, this is a good tip. And man, nowadays with AI, it's getting to a totally different level. The systems will allow clinics to run large numbers of leads. All right, welcome everybody to the next episode of the podcast, the Wellness Practice Playbook. So today we're going to talk about sales, specifically importance of sales in the medical wellness practice. Sales is not just getting new patients. Sales is also important in the retention side of the business, to keep the patients, introducing to them new services. Today I invited Mario Maldonado to our podcast. Mario worked at a medical practice in the past, sold medical procedures right over the phone. We're talking about thousands of dollars collected right through the phone on a credit card. Overall, has many years experience in sales. Now he is working at our agency, helping medical practices, telling them how things need to be done. So he has a lot of knowledge on how to structure sales. So that's what the conversation is going to be about. So hello, Mario. How's your morning?
Hey, Alex, how are you?
All right. So let's start first with the situation of one clinic, medical practices thinking, you know what, we don't sell, we treat patients. No, necessarily, we don't want to look like we are salespeople. To me, it's a big mistake, because I'm always saying the cash pay medical practice, you should look at it as not a medical clinic. Look at it as a marketing company that sells medical procedures, because it's not insurance based, right?
Exactly. So basically, we're competing for people's money. Are they going to spend it on a vacation? Are they going to spend it on a weekend? Are they going to spend it on their health? Ideally, you want to be able to educate them to the point where they would be able to enjoy all those things if they were in optimal health. So anti-aging fascinates me, and I actually didn't know anything about it till I actually started this in 2017 with this national wellness clinic, where I was speaking to men and women throughout the country and basically educating them. It's more of a consultative approach, educating them as far as what their symptoms were and what the solution was. Again, like I told you before, I never knew anything about, I didn't know anything about hormone replacement therapy. I didn't even know anything about ED. But it does happen to everybody, especially, men and women as they get older. I would say now in their late 30s, 40s, unfortunately, not everybody's as healthy as they'd like to be. Stress has a lot to do with it. The main component pretty much of someone's health falling apart is stress. So helping someone inside their body functioning optimally is going to help them, enjoy their lives. I was basically given a crash course as far as these treatments, the benefits, and all I pretty much did is learned it and, basically repeated. A lot of listening. You have to listen in sales. You have to listen to what the person on the other line is saying, and of course, then just cross-reference it to, what is going to help them, and then just give them that information that the doctor gave me. And it's just sort of connecting the dots and informing them, making them feel comfortable about, what they're doing and what they're going to be doing to help better their lives.
So this is where I see the separation of front desk person and the salesperson. Because if you put front desk person in charge of working leads, they pick up the phone and they're going to try just to book an appointment. But when it comes to have a professional salesperson at the center, the salesperson will do consultation. Start asking questions, because salesperson has now time to invest into a conversation. When front desk person is like, oh shoot, somebody walked in. Let me get consent forms for them. Let me check them in. So they have no way to work a lead. When the salesperson is isolated in their own room, they pick up the phone and they got a person on the phone, and that's where education begins. Questions
Correct.
begins, connecting with the person, engaging, asking questions, answering questions, qualify them. So can you walk us through what is like for a salesperson to work a lead in comparison, like let's say front desk?
So again, remember the person that's calling in or the person that's reached out to you for you to call them. They have questions. They have concerns. They want to correct something. So typically, you already know what it's about because they've filled out information and that they've provided, and basically, it's just a matter of listening to them. For instance, a lot of the times when we're doing, someone that's interested in hormone replacement therapy, you know, they've done their due diligence as far as the information they could gather on the internet, maybe the website, maybe multiple websites. They reached out to you because our marketing was the best. Now it's my job to get that person educated enough to make an appointment with the doctor. So the first thing that I'm looking to do is I'm looking to establish rapport with the person on the other line. Basically, establish a rapport puts as person to person. It's not a salesperson. It's more of just like, I'm a man, you're a man. Let's talk about, what's going on. Uh, the benefit that I had when I was working, and I believe the majority of us, when it pertains to sexual dysfunction, talking to men, is the fact that I'm also in my 50s. So they actually will understand what you're saying to them comes from experience or something that we also are also concerned about. You know, it's about establishing that rapport, giving them all the information that they need, and then of course cross-referencing what the doctor's given you to give them an idea as to what's going to help them, what it's going to take to get them to be happy as far as either having enough energy to play with your children, have enough energy and have enough drive to be with your spouse when that time comes.
Right. So that's also reminds me of something we're recommending to our clients. When you hire somebody for front desk, uh, it's someone who is nice, who's caring. But when you hire for sales, it's someone relatable, ideally in the age group of what your ideal patients are. Because if I am, for example, I'm 50 and I'm calling to medical practice, it's fine. I'll talk to a 28-year-old girl who's going to book me consultation. But if I'm engaging with someone, I'm talking about my issues like my hormone decline, my erectile dysfunction situation, definitely talking to a girl will be a problem. If talking to a guy, if it's a 20-year-old guy, he can't relate to me. But if it's
Correct.
a guy that I'm talking to, he's 40, 45, like close to my age, we can talk about similar things. So for
Exactly.
someone who has a men's health clinic, this is a good tip. Hire a salesperson. Like I call the salesperson, but the fancy name we always give them is wellness advisors, men's health
Well,
specialist.
exactly. Wellness advisor, health consultant. I mean, you could come up with a fancy name, whatever the doctor likes, pretty much, or the sales guy likes. But at the end of the day, you basically a sales guy is someone that has all the information about what he's selling. He's passionate about it. He believes in it. He's probably done all those treatments, like, for instance, shockwave therapy. He's tried the little blue pill, and then, of course, pointing out the benefits of both.
Also, would be probably important to give your team treatments, especially if they can benefit from it, so they can speak from experience.
Exactly. I mean, typically, if you want to talk to somebody about the journey as to, what's going on, what to expect, and what the outcome's going to be, if you've done it yourself, it's a lot easier to get that point across and to let them know. that, this actually is going to change your life.
So, what was your day like when you was a wellness advisor?
So pretty much it felt, I mean, again, the office, it's a medical office, which I believe I would say a third of it was actually just the medical part, with the different rooms, treatment rooms. Um, our office in the back, which was more of the marketing and sales, was two-thirds of the office. So and that's what basically allowed us, or gave us the advantage to be able to bill $1 million a month. You know, um, again, typically you'd go in. We would have our first meeting in the morning, typically like 9 o'clock. Office opens at 10. 9 o'clock, we are gathered together as far as a sales team, and then of course that is pretty much to set the day, or maybe even to do some role playing as to what some guys are encountering, and other people and other guys to share, what they've done or what they've heard, to be able to, help them close that new patient. So it would start off with a 30-minute meeting in the morning. We're done by 9:30. 9:45, after coffee, we're sitting down at our desks, and the phones start ringing at 10. Of course, we're also getting email leads from the system. So in between the calls, we're always contacting, communicating with warm leads. They're warm leads. They're people that have already been educated as far as what we offer, what the treatment is going to be. Now it's a matter of just letting them know exactly what to expect.
So, I can see that those first 30 minutes in the morning, for especially if you have a sales team more than one person, it is critical. That's a time when salespeople do role play, give feedback to each other, what they've heard, how they overcame it, and why it worked, share experiences, just motivating each other. Hey, let's go on. It's a new day. Because from my experience and from me observing sales team, it is a brutal job. You every day you talk to people, you chase them, get rejections. So if you emotionally connect into that, it beats you up.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Sales is tough because it's a lot of no's for a few yeses. So you really have to have that thick skin, and you actually have to be able to. I would say my biggest advantage is, I believe I'm a very good qualifier. So I'm not going to waste my time with the guys that I'm hearing that, possibly aren't really qualified, and I'll spend more time with the guys that are qualified, and those are the guys that are going to come in and they're going to buy multiple treatments.
Let's talk about the qualification process because this is a problem I'm seeing with medical practices. Like they're saying, oh, we have a lot of no shows. But my question is, okay, how did you book that appointment? Did you just like
Correct.
went on SMS and booked it cold? Did you have a conversation? Let's talk about that part.
So with us, every lead that came in, every warm lead that came in, we actually spoke to them on the phone, because the fact that we're closing them on the phone, we're actually collecting the full amount of the procedure over the phone. The great thing about credit cards is that, you're protected. You give someone your credit card, in a sense, the bank is going to back you up. So a lot of the times, people are, I'm not going to give you a credit card over the phone. I'm like, why wouldn't you give me a credit card over the phone? You buy everything with credit cards. You know, Worst case scenario, if you don't like the service that you were provided, we'll probably refund it for you, or you were protected by your bank. So that's how you overcome. People are pretty much just giving you a reason not to get started. So you're really looking and listening for, those things that, are going to be helping you get their credit card. And at the end of the day, it's just asking for the credit card. So for instance, say for ED shockwave therapy, we were charging $3,000 for a 6-pack, which is basically 6 sessions. You know, at no point in time after spending 10, 15, 20 minutes with that lead, that potential patient, they were very happy to give you that credit card because you've educated them. You gave them the journey, and you also spoke to them about the outcome. And of course, on our website we have testimonials. You know, testimonials are strong. Those are something that's going to help a sales guy. A lot of things can help a sales guy, but a testimonial is gold.
Yeah, there's also a question comes up: how long do you stay with them on the phone?
Correct. Well, that's where I was referring to qualifying them. So typically, you go through your rapport, which probably is going to take at the beginning maybe a few minutes, and at that time you have to pretty much see if you establish rapport or if you don't establish rapport. If you establish rapport, that call could probably be 15, 20 minutes. If you don't establish rapport, it could be as short as 5 minutes. Again, there are also different types of characters that you're talking to. What I'm referring to is there's different types of people on the other end of the phone. You know, you don't know what they're doing on the other end of the phone. They could be an executive VP of something. The guy knows, and he knows what to ask, and he's going to make a quick decision if he believes, you know, that the treatment and the information you give him is going to work. Then, of course, you have other people that are like, they sort of like need to get all the information from you. Then they need to go on the internet and find more information. You know, there's different personalities as far as who buys and when they buy. So that's something I would encourage any sales guy to look into as far as how to deal with those different people.
And in terms of working leads, there is a systems. I mean, there are times when we take a client that still uses emails and Google Sheets. Let's talk about the technologist part and how important that is in the sales process.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, first of all, like for instance, something that you had mentioned initially, I think a practice that really wants to succeed and really wants to grow, they definitely need a dedicated lead manager, someone that's going to only work the leads. What they're going to need because of the volume, they're going to need some technology to be able to help them, through a sales process. So that technology, if they have that technology, like what we have, MD Practice Flow is easy. It's You have automations. It's as far as working leads, you could actually probably work over 150 leads. Because say for instance, if you weren't using any technology, you could probably work 10, 15, 20 at the most. So it's all about numbers. And when you're using a software that's going to help you with your process, it just makes me more money as a sales guy, makes the center more money because we're bringing in more patients. Everybody's happy.
Yeah, and in terms of software technologies, there's all kinds of systems out there. And just to let the listeners know, as a cash pay medical practice, you'll have two systems. There are very, very few thriving clinics that I see have one that does everything. Keeps records for patients and also does lead management. Those systems are like Salesforce, for example. They are massive, massive systems. I won't expect a new clinic have something like that because just to maintain that software, it's going to take tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, we've seen $100,000 a year to maintain a system like that. But now, with all the technologies being so streamlined, a system you will have two systems. That's what most clinics do. They have one system, the EHR EMR, that's specifically for patients management, and for the sales force, for the sales team, they have a CRM. And CRMs there's different kinds of systems. We have our own practice flow. And what it does is it collects leads from all the marketing channels. Doesn't matter why they come in, how they come in. It could be a message from the website. It could be a phone call from Google Maps. It could be a lead that filled up the form on a landing page somewhere. It could be a lead that sent a message through Instagram. They all come into the system, become a contact. That contact will have associated source where they came from and possibly a procedure of interest. And if there's any additional information was collected, it all populates in the profile of that contact. So imagine how easy it is for salesperson to open a profile, and now they know where they came from, which pages on the website they visited, how many times they actually contacted the center in the past, read any notes from previous engagements, um, any information they provided, like somebody, for example, came to the website, selected, hey, I want hormone therapy, and wrote in comments, hey, I'm struggling with XYZ. Now the conversation gets structured around what information was provided. And of course, that allows the salesperson to manage hundreds of leads because after initial touch, you set up a task to follow up at a different time. And the system will remind you, hey, it's time to follow up with the prospect B. And you go to notes and you know exactly what the conversation was. So technology allows to be more effective. And man, nowadays with AI, it's getting to a totally different level. The systems will allow clinics to run large numbers of leads. And this is a different conversation specifically, once you go to meta advertising, those leads are not the best quality. And instead of wasting time of your salespeople, you'll get AI that can actually do that. Let's talk about speed, the power of speed to lead. Because personally, I tell medical practice, you have 90 seconds. And personally, I'm really impressed when I submit information somewhere and I get respond almost within next 10 seconds, I get a phone call. So let's talk about speed to lead. What did you encounter to be the most effective time frame?
Again, when someone's looking for a solution and they go on the internet and they Google whatever the procedure is that they're looking for, you know, and they actually decide to call a number, they want to speak to someone. So ideally, it's not so much just how quickly you call them back, it's also how quickly you pick up the phone. You don't let the phone ring more than 3 times. You pick it up on the first, second call, it gives an impression to them that, we're here to help you. If you answer the phone on the 6th or 7th, now they're anxious. So it's all about that. It's all about, preparing the rapport and the whole meeting with the prospective patient. You're establishing all that. So I definitely think you have to pick up the call. If the calls are coming in, you have to pick up within the first 3 rings. Okay. If for some reason you're on the phone, someone else called in, they left a voice message. As soon as you get off the phone, you see a voice message, I wouldn't even listen to the voice message. I just dial the phone and get to them and actually start there. With the technology nowadays, I could actually read because it's transcribed while I'm calling the new prospective patient. So it is important. I mean, remember, a lead is money. If you don't jump on that lead, you're potentially throwing money away.
Yeah, that's what we also see. Lead come in, and they're gonna call the lead in 3 hours. In 3 hours, so much has changed in for that person who submitted information. They already
Definitely.
they possibly already picking up the kid from the school, so they're not gonna pick up the phone, or they doing already something else, or they just went through a stressful situation and they even forgot what they were submitting 3 hours ago.
Correct.
Or they waited for 30 minutes and they called another center, and that center picked up the phone.
And that's why it's so important for it to be a wellness consultant on top of this. Because if you just have someone at the front desk that's wearing multiple hats and you give them this hat, they're not really focused on what they need to do to get that person to come in or, to become a patient. Because they're like you said before, they're worried about, someone walking through the door, smiling. They're worried about, giving them forms, giving them coffee. So let that front desk handle what they're meant to do. Hire a sales guy, hire a wellness advisor that, in a sense, is going to make sure that your center makes money and maximizes the doctor's time. The more the doctor is busy, the more money that the center is making.
Yep.
So what I'm getting to is everybody has a specialty, just like in medicine. Let the sales guy do the leads, let the front desk do the admin work, let the doctor do the doctoring.
Yeah. I see
Everybody's
sales
happy, everybody makes
examples
money.
of that where there's a front desk in the front that's working leads and greeting people, and the doctor is the one who's seeing prospects and seeing patients. That's really difficult to scale.
Yeah. And then this is something that I've seen at a medical practice where, they had that front desk person that wanted to do everything, pick up the phone right away. Okay, you know what? When do you want to get scheduled? This is what I have opening. But that person still has questions in their mind. This person's not worried about that. She's just worried about booking. So if she doesn't book them, click. What has to happen is the call comes into the front desk. They immediately have to transfer it to the sales guy, not sort of start here and then pass them down later, because you're going to lose that lead. You're going to lose that potential patient. That's why it's got to be a sales department, a salesperson, wellness advisor, health coach, whatever you want to call it. But someone that's educated wants to talk to educated people, and people that are going to listen to them and give them their time. Time is money.
So this is I'm gonna right now outline a workflow that most thriving centers use. The phone call comes in or the lead comes in. If it's a phone call comes in and front desk picks it up, like you said, the front desk person will not be talking about new with a new prospect. It's gonna forward it to a salesperson. Right. So if it's a web submission comes in, it goes directly to a salesperson, bypassing front desk. Now, some centers have salespeople with their own dedicated phone lines. So if the
Ideal.
marketing company done it properly, the new phone call will go right to a salesperson. And if it's more than one, there'll be a rotating system. So that's how lead goes first from the new to a person talking at the clinic. Then the salesperson answer all the questions, explain the procedure, qualifies the person, and either A, will collect the money for the procedure and book an appointment, or B, after the person qualified, it will collect money to reserve a spot in a consultation, and that money, of course, will be then going towards the procedure. Then the prospect come to the center, the front desk will greet the person and have them sit down with a wellness advisor, which is a salesperson that booked them originally, and they will go into conversation. This is now the first ever face-to-face meeting they have at the center. So now they have a conversation and walk us through what happens next.
So at that point in time, basically, now you've already established the rapport on the phone. You already got them to come in. They're already spending time because they're very interested in what you offered. Now here you talk to them about the different packages. If they didn't prepay and in a sense come in already to do the treatment, they're going to come in and they're going to get a little bit further information as to what they're going to be looking for as far as helping them, get to their goal. Some people won't book over the phone. They won't pay over the phone. So if they don't want to pay, invite them to come in, and then you can do that right in the center. While they're at the center, they're seeing a beautiful office. They're seeing the medical staff. They're seeing everybody doing their job, and then it's up to you to go in and basically close and close a deal. If you need a minute or 2 minutes of a doctor to walk in and just sort of greet, that's gold as well. Right away they're going to be anxious to get started. Here's something that I encountered also in centers that I've seen. When the call comes into the front desk and they don't transfer it to the dedicated lead manager, and they decide, you know what, I have time, I'm not busy, I'm going to talk to them. Well, they book an appointment with them. Okay. What happens? No show rate is high. If they speak to someone that's a wellness advisor, they establish rapport, they educate them everything, answer all their questions, the no-show rate is minimal. So if they follow exactly what we're trying to teach them, these centers, it's going to be very, very easy for them to scale up. If they don't have this in place, they won't be able to scale up.
Let's talk about this thing. It's called price versus value. Because what I'm seeing a lot happening, clinics are dropping prices, competitors dropping prices, and it becomes this effect of a helicopter falling down. They're just beating each other for prices versus explaining the value of a certain treatment at the center.
So basically, what makes me think when you say all this stuff is the traditional medicine in this country is all insurance based, right? So due to the fact that everybody can make an appointment and they show up, the doctor's giving you 5-10 minutes of their time, and really you're not really getting the full benefit of what cash pay services offer. For cash pay services, they're going to be getting an hour. They're going to be talking to the doctor about their medical history, their parents' medical history, the labs, all that information takes time. And if it's and the expert is going to pretty much give them a roadmap as to what's going to help them get back to where they want to be. A sales guy, a wellness advisor understands that. The front desk person does not. So it's all about just telling a story. The front desk person can tell the story. The patient advocate, the wellness consultant, he can. So that's how it's a lot easier to collect higher ticket pricing right over the phone or sell without discounting. When you're discounting, basically you're just looking at volume. So you might as well go to an insurance-based practice.
Yeah. Because when it comes to hormone therapy, weight loss, in order for you to share the stories of life transformations of other patients with a prospect, you
Correct.
need to have a dedicated time, and that's where a salesperson you get involved, because now they're on the phone dedicated just to that person to find out what they're struggling with, then relate to them the story of another patient that also came in with a similar situation, how their life got improved, and now all of a sudden it's no longer about the price, it's about the outcome of what they're going to get. Because
What made me a successful wellness consultant pretty much was the sales team that I started with. It was guys just like myself, maybe a few years younger, a few years older. And in the sense, the way we were set up in the office, we were set up in cubicles, sort of like stockbrokers. So we were actually hearing each other talk to different people. And me as the new guy, I'm like listening to these guys and I'm like, man, these guys are good. You know, hey, I learned a lot from them. One of them was a RN, but he basically decided to go into this because he made more money. Another one was a stockbroker back in the day, close to retirement. So those are the type of guys that you need in there.
different styles.
Different styles, and when you can pretty much reference or hear all the different styles, it's only going to help the new guy, and it's only going to help each other, because the new guy might come up with a new style as well.
Yeah, yeah, I remember the Iran nurse. His style was almost like a consultative medical consultation over the phone.
Because he
And
was because he was a registered nurse, so he was able to say that. Yeah, I'm a nurse. I can't say that.
yeah, so that was his style. Um, the other guy, stockbroker, his style was different. Uh, Not
Yes.
too pushy, but he has his style, and I learned a lot from him. And I'm going to cover right now that the strategist too. Um, there's another guy I remember came in very young one, didn't have any of that, but instead he utilized technology. He was the
Yep.
first one to start sending mass SMS campaigns. So he was able to work the volume and pick out of volume hot leads who are ready to have a conversation. So
Exactly.
every salesperson can have its own style based on the experience in life. Yeah.
And then if you have a sales process, which everybody has to have in order to be successful, you just stick to that sales process with whatever style you're doing. You're gonna be able to bring in those new patients.
So I want to cover, and I think it's going to help a lot to listeners, the sales process, the actual conversation. For example, the very wrong approach is the phone rings, you pick up the phone, and the person on the other line immediately, hey, how much is your weight loss? And the wrong approach here is, oh, so yeah, our weight loss is that much cost per month. So that is a killer right there, because here you allowing a prospect to lead the conversation.
Correct.
So the things I learned in the sales process is, first you have to take control over the conversation, and it's pretty simple. The person who's asking questions is the one who's in control of the conversation. So, for example, the phone rings. Hey, how much is your weight loss? Yeah, absolutely. Who am I speaking with? Oh, it's a Daniel. Great, Daniel. Daniel, would you mind if I ask you a few questions just so I understand what your situation is and what you're looking for? Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Hi, Daniel. Hey, how old are you? How much do you weigh? Did you ever try weight loss? See, now I am the one who's in control because I am the one who's asking questions. So, right now, so far, what happened is step number one, take control of the conversation. Here we go. That's step number one. Step number two is build a report, start asking questions. And within those questions, now you can put some qualifiers. So you're asking questions. No, have you done this before? What are you experiencing? What made you call us today? What's happening? And really, what you're looking for in all that questions is just one thing: why? What is the why? Why are you calling me today? What happened? Why? Because if I don't close this person now, and I'm going to call this person to follow up in 3 days, my conversation will begin with the why. Because if I didn't know the why, and if I just answered his questions on what the procedure price is what, and he didn't close, I didn't schedule this time, when I'm gonna call him, when I call this person back, I'm gonna be just the one out of 3, 4 clinics he called, and he won't even remember who I am. But if I
Correct.
did spend time on asking questions, build a relationship over the phone, he'll remember me. And especially if I'll start my phone call with a reason why. For example, let's say during a conversation I discovered, let's say the person called for erectile dysfunction treatment, that his wife is about to leave him. Or let's say he's calling for weight loss because his primary care told him your weight is too much, your joints are hurting because of it. You're going to eventually end up with replacement. Or, for example, the person calling because they want to find out what the Botox price is because in 2 weeks they're going for some kind of wedding and they want to look good. So my follow-up phone call will be with the first person is, you know what, you called me in the past, you said your relationship is struggling, your wife is thinking of leaving you, and we talked about having a treatment for you. Now, when would you like to come in? Let's solve this problem now. Immediately, I'm not the same guy he called as a clinic. He now remembers. Or the guy who has a problem with the weight, my conversation will be, hey, we spoke on Tuesday because your doctor gave you the diagnosis, your joints are hurting and you want to lose weight. We have the procedures that can help you. Let's get started on that. Or the person who called because they want a Botox and they have the party in 2 weeks, I'm going to call back and say, Joanna, the time is running. I mean, the Botox is going to take 10 days to kick in, and your event is in 12 days. I can squeeze you in tomorrow. Let's book it now. So that was a reason for the why. All the other questions were supplementary and helpful, but anyway, so that's a step number two. Step number three is a super important. It's called building authority. Because after step two, there's still a question in their mind: how much does it cost? So if I'm going to give them that now, and I bypass the next step, which is number 3, build authority, it's going to be too much. Also, the build authority step is necessary to position your clinic. How are you different from anybody else? So this
Correct.
is step number 3, designed to say, okay, John, so when you come in to the center, you're going to meet with XYZ. That doctor is amazing. He's been doing this for 25 years. He been credentialed here and there, and we've been helping men and women to do those procedures for years. So you're building up that person credentials. You're building up the clinic reputation. You're building up the next person they're going to meet, because in their mind, they already visualizing, okay, if I'm going to come to the clinic and I meet with Joanna, okay, I'm going to meet with Jason, or I'm going to meet with Dr. X. So, and only after that, I would be allowed to say the price. So that
Correct.
was step number 3, establish authority. Step number 4, assume the sale. So John, the next step is for you to come to the center. When would you like to come in? I have Tuesday and Thursday available. So always give them 2 options, Tuesday or Thursday, because if you tell them, hey, when would you like to come in? It is an open-ended question, and they'll be like, when? I don't know. But if you tell them Tuesday or Thursday, they'll be like, you know what? How about Wednesday? Oh, sure. I got morning or afternoon. When do you want to come? Can I come at lunchtime? Sure, I got you for 12 o'clock. Um, sometimes you would need to qualify them financially. And I've heard
Correct.
and I've learned from sales guys the questions like, during the questionnaire you ask them, hey, by the way, what do you do for a living? How stressful is your life? Because
Correct. Yeah.
it plays well into hormone therapy, weight loss. It plays very well because stress is part of those symptoms. The
Yeah.
person says, "Oh, I've been unemployed for like last 6 months." Great, our treatment starts at, and you tell them a price, because at this point, there's no reason to keep wasting time. Just give them the price, and if he sticks, and if he says, "Fine, good," then you got something you can work with. Or if you say, "No, what? Sure, I can't afford it. I thought you guys have insurance or something." Listen, then the conversation is over at that point. So yeah, so here we go. It's the first one: take control over the conversation. The second one, ask questions. This is the qualification part, because you might find out during that, they have something that's not going to work for the center.
Right.
Then third one, establish authority, and fourth is assume the sale, and it's time to
Of course.
proceed.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You just got to stick. You got to stick to that. And like you said, it's always asking questions. If someone's calling in because they're looking for a solution for ED, there's specific questions you can ask them. And actually, the doctor shared with me something called the SHIM score. So it's 5 questions. Basically, gives them a numeric number on a scale of 1 to 25, and it puts them as to how severe the ED is. So right there, that's already something medical. The doctor could ask him the same questions. I could ask him the same questions. He's determining, he's putting himself on the chart from the questions we're asking him. So very, very easy. And then from there, the doctor pretty much says, okay, you know what? Your score is this. This is what the recommendation is to get back to the top.
Yep. Sales is not about pushing. Sales is about helping that person make the next step. Because for
Yeah.
them, it's always scary. They stressed out. Hey, I've been experiencing these symptoms for so long. Like, for example, let's talk about sexual health. It's a massive problem, and for
Yeah.
them to trust to a clinic to go solve this problem, to take that next step, there's a hesitation. So selling is explaining, educating, and remind them that, hey, you need to make next step now, or it's expensive compared to what? How expensive would it be to go through divorce? Or, for
Correct.
example, if they go for hormone therapy, well, it's expensive compared to what? How expensive would it be if you have no energy, if your body retains too much fat, if you can't build the muscle, if your mental capacity is constantly declining, how expensive that going to be to the quality of your life?
Correct.
It's
Yeah,
well,
anti-aging is amazing, and it's people could actually enjoy their retirement. I have some great stories. I mean, we probably need a few hours to talk about all the people that I felt like they actually felt happy that I spoke to them initially. Because remember, I'm the one that speaks to them initially. Then they come in and they do the treatments, and you can pretty much see how their progression goes from what I told them initially to when they finish the treatment, and now they're like, "Wow, you know." Funny story. I was in the Aventura Mall at lunchtime, walking through the passageways, and I saw one of my patients walking towards me. Now, because of HIPAA, I'm not gonna acknowledge he's a patient of mine. I might say hello, but that's pretty much just keep going. So he was actually walking towards me, and he had this big smile on his face. And walking with him was this pretty lady. He actually stopped, said hello to me, hugged me, and he said, "This is the guy that helped me out."
it saved the
He went.
relationship.
He went from right. So when he started with us, emotionally he could not date because
No confidence.
he didn't have any confidence whatsoever. So going through the process and through the treatment, and he got to the point where, you know what, I have my confidence back, and there he is, walking towards me with a beautiful lady in his arm.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes me smile. Oh, on another story is I had a woman on the phone who was basically crying because she felt her hormones were so out of whack. She was going through menopause, and she's like, I'm very, very bad things as far as how she was feeling, depressed, can't sleep. She even mentioned, like, I don't see how I can keep living this way, which, sort of makes you worry. I helped her, had that consultation with her, booked her to come in to see the doctor. She went through all the testing. A month after she was on the program, on her hormone optimization program, it was a totally different woman. Totally different woman. She would make sure she stopped by my office every time to say thank you, just to say hello, just to smile. Those are the things that make me want to do what I do as far as working in healthcare.
Yeah, anti-aging
In wellness.
field, medical wellness field is amazing. This is why also I've stuck to it for so long, is because even that we are on the side of the marketing, we are indirectly affecting lives of people by
Oh yeah,
helping our clients get patients and help those patients in their communities. And the change is amazing.
yeah, yeah. Prior to me working for that wellness clinic, National Wellness Clinic, I actually moved from Connecticut to Florida because I worked with a physician recruiting company. So I already had that. I was helping communities get new doctors. So I was helping communities, and this sort of was the same thing, but this was actually something where I could actually see and hear the impact I made on these specific people.
Yep. I'm going to switch gears to from sales to retention, because this is a totally next level for medical practices that graduated from that first phase of getting the revenue to the point where they're comfortable. The sales is running really, really good. So now the next step is maintaining those patients,
Correct.
because realistically, patients will not stay forever with a clinic. They're going to eventually drop off. They may stop taking the treatment. They may switch and once they stop taking, they get bombarded with advertising from other centers. They may go to other center, or some of them will switch to national companies because of the price. So retention is a next element for medical practices to plan for, and that also a dedicated person.
Correct.
The front desk is not the right person for it, and the salesperson is absolutely not the right person. I remember watching at the center we both worked at how sales and retention people switched roles, departments, and we saw how they struggled big time. The retention person could not survive in the sales side, and the salesperson could not survive in the retention side.
Different personalities,
Yeah.
different jobs.
It's kind of like for us, sales and account management,
Yeah.
totally different personalities.
Yeah.
So on the retention side, the person's job is to make sure the patients stay. Call them periodically, make sure they're feeling good on their program. Because what's going to happen, some of them, for example, you call them and like, oh, shoot, I know what, I actually totally let go and I didn't take my medications for like a month already. No wonder I feel like that. You know what? Thanks for calling, reminding me. I need to get back on it. And the retention person call back, and the next day, did you get on it? Did you get back on it? Let's make sure you have the medication. Or they forgot to refill the medication, which is another problem.
Right.
And then what happened? Then what happens? Revenue for the center keep dropping, and the patient that they just improved life for, it's dropped off. Not because they wanted, it's because life happened. So that's where the retention becomes super important to maintain the revenue.
Especially, let me interact, especially in the last 5 years after COVID, basically, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of national competition where everything is telemedicine. So it'd be very easy for you to lose a hormone replacement patient probably after 6 months or a year. So I think I've heard you pretty much establish that typically an HRT patient is the life of the patient is about a year. Well, when we were at the medical practice in Aventura, I had patients for years and years and years, and I got referrals from those patients, and the retention people who, in a sense, I passed them on after the 3 month mark. They kept giving them information on what else is coming up new as far as new medications, as far as new treatments. So it's all about, basically helping that person be their best, feel their best,
Yeah, that one patient
look their best.
continues buying services, so revenue continues,
Yeah,
referring other people. So now it's a zero marketing patients. And
correct.
also, when a new procedures are being introduced into medical center, guess who's going to call them? The retention person. They know exactly who will be benefiting from it. Or during the next phone call conversation, they're going to bring it up. Hey, did you know that we offer now this peptide, for example? And now it is generating a spike in revenue for medical practice. Which brings me to another point with the medical practice is to have a goal for a medical team to introduce a new procedure every quarter.
Oh yeah,
Because once a new procedure is introduced, the retention gets to work. And they start calling all the patients, introducing a new service. And that creates a spike on the revenue every quarter. Not to mention, it creates another residual revenue component because now those patients buying that service. Not to mention that the sales team is now getting involved, the marketing team gets involved to promote that new service. And it just generates not only spike in revenue for existing patients and additional revenue from existing patients, but also introducing new revenue from new sales and introduces new lead flow for salespeople. So
yes,
this one of the things I was discussing with one of our clients this week, who grown to the point where he is renting a space from another doctor. Is now the doctor is retiring, so the client has opportunity to take the entire space. So I told him, "Yep, take the entire space, and whatever you don't need, rent it out."
right,
And now start working on increasing your marketing because you have a larger capacity. Bring another salesperson in, and start thinking about retention, because while you're expanding, you want to retain everything you got.
Correct. Yeah, it's a business, and at the end of the day, you need to make sure that all your ducks are in a row. You dot your I's, you cross your T's to make sure that you could, and that's how we, from what I remember, as far as the numbers, when I joined in 2017, I think we were at about 500,000 new and retention, and within 2 years, when that shockwave therapy treatment went national, you took it national, it doubled.
Yeah, the revenue doubled because one of the new treatments became a hit.
Exactly.
So yeah, the reason, one of the reasons for all those new procedures is because one of them eventually may become a hit, that
Correct.
high demand, and it's just gonna propel the clinic to next level.
And we're seeing that right now. I see it across the board in social media as far as all the peptides and how beneficial they are. I mean, there's new peptides coming out all the time, so you just have to make sure that first your medical staff gets the training, and then that medical staff trains your salespeople and your retention people, and it's a team. It's a team that basically is going to grow that business from wherever you are, and to double it or triple it.
Yeah, let's talk about the KPIs for someone who do hire a salesperson, put them into that position. What numbers should they be tracking to help improve over time?
Well, again, the most important thing is going to be phone calls. I think as far as what we've discussed so far, it's the personal communication between the lead, the potential patient, and the wellness advisor. It's important to see how many minutes they speak, as well as how many people they speak to. Remember, this is B2C. This is business to consumer. So typically you would allow a lot about 10 to 15 minutes per call. And easily in an 8-hour day, hour for lunch, hour for coffee breaks out of 6 hours, they're typically should be calling anywhere between 60 to 80 people a day.
So yeah, so there's going to be a number of leads a salesperson has. How many of those became quality leads? How many phone calls the person makes?
Yeah,
What is a closing rate? What is no-show rate too?
correct.
Those are the good
Correct.
numbers will be to track.
Yeah, and like I had mentioned before, the no-show rate, if it's someone that is working the leads and is a wellness advisor, in a sense, sometimes they actually almost look at you as a medical person because you know so much, the doctors taught you so much. The no-show rate is minimal. Minimal. If you just have your front desk making appointments while people are calling in, I would say more than half are not going to show up.
Yep, because no relationship was established.
Yeah.
So we also talked. So we talked about sales team have meetings between each other.
Yeah.
But I remember we also had sales team and marketing team meetings,
Correct.
which absolutely key. And even right now, with all the clients we're working with, our team prefers to meet with people who manage leads. Why?
Exactly.
Because the sales team will provide feedback, a super valuable feedback to the marketing team on how the leads are, what are they hearing on the phone, they're talking to people on the phone. And that will allow marketing team to improve whatever they're doing on the front end. I
Correct.
remember that was one of the biggest help for me on the marketing side was to have a ability to communicate with sales team. I
Yeah.
would
I
I
remember
would
when you
do
used to walk,
marketing. Yep.
I remember when you used to walk to my desk and say, "Hey Mario, what did you think about this guy?" Because you were tracking him, and I'm like, "Good, bad, ugly," but I gave you feedback. And with that feedback, the next round of leads were much better.
Yeah. And that's importance of having a salesperson or lead management person to meet with the marketing people to
Yeah.
provide feedback. Because for business owner, what they hear a lot, oh, we don't have much appointments, but they don't know what was actually going on with the lead, why they didn't book. So
Right.
that was really good. So there's really a few meetings is important to have in medical practice. One, sales team, if there's more than one person, communicating, motivating each other, providing feedback. Second one is sales or lead management team meeting with the marketing team or participating on meetings to provide feedback. It's a super valuable feedback. And the third one I think is very important is for a medical team to communicate to a sales team of life-changing experience that patients receive. Because now
Correct.
that provides to sales team information and stories to share during their conversations.
Yeah. Something that I remember that I think is crucial too, since you always want to be ahead in medicine. You always want to be ahead of the curve. You always want to have the newest and the latest. So I remember the medical staff. They were going to a 2-3 day training. We met with them when they came back. What did you learn? you know Tell us about this new exciting stuff that you learned, so we can promote it, so we can sell it, so we can talk to people about it. So it's also that, it's also about that
Very good. I think
team
we're going to
effort.
close down this conversation. It was very good. And for those who listened, if you have any more questions on how to structure your sales process, your lead management process, reach out. We'll be happy to have a conversation and help you establish a healthy and effective sales and retention process.
Perfect. Great talk, Alex.